Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's another fine day out here. The weather's nice. It's nice and bright. I got lights. Everything is nice. What we're going to get into today is using this limiter technique. It's not really a technique. It's just literally we're just going to smash. We just smash. We're going to take a kick drum. We're going to run it through a limiter. We're going to set a honest ceiling, and then we're just going to crank the living nightmare out of this kick drum. Right, we're just gonna destroy this thing. Well, what happens, interesting enough, is unlike a compressor, when you use a limiter, the limiter is built to act fast on its attack and release time, so fast that the curve is literally dip in and dip out. If you've seen Ozone's limiter, you'll see the small little triangle that just goes like this, and it just hits on each transient. Now imagine you do that to the kick drum. So when you take a limiter and squash a kick, you're able to just then raise up the bottom end of the kick. Like, nothing happened, just, and that just literally just what happens, just, and then you got a fatter kick drum. I'm gonna be using the Kratos 2 limiter from Kuasa. I'm also gonna test this out with the L2. Now, a lot of times I use the L2 on mastering duties when I need to kind of inflate the bottom end of a track because there's too many peaks, maybe a snare, maybe a kick, I don't know, maybe a hi-hat. But when I'm using individual sounds, you're gonna wanna get something rough, a nice rough limiter, maybe even produce a little bit of harmonics if you want a little color, like a little soul on it. So like a little, right? And so let's just go in there. Let's just see what we're talking about. Right? It sounds nice. Now listen to it without the maximizer though. That's cute. Right? Sounds great. Now for those of y'all that's just sitting there like, what about level matching? Understand that when we first started this, the peaks are at a -4, right? With that being said, the maximizer is chopping off the peaks, and then what it's going to do, like any other limiter that's going to raise the 2 mix of your program, is going to raise the average level. So even though this kick is getting louder, it's not getting louder via peak. What you're hearing is the loudness actually increasing of the kick, which means the low end is now going to meet that Fletcher-Munson equal loudness contour curve. You know, that curve that's going to show that the louder something is, the more the bass is going to be apparent. And this is really what's going on here. So when we're doing this, watch me maximize this. Let's look at the peaks. Right? Now, let's maximize this. And if you need to make it quieter, that's what the ceiling is for. But all in all, it doesn't really matter how much I maximize this because that's what a limiter does. So the more you maximize it, you'll begin to change the timbre and the character of your kick drum, which can further be edited by these controls here. Now, normally on this Kuasa, I don't usually have to just dial in a custom variation of it unless I really just don't like where it's going with it. But let's try this on the L2 because I want you to hear what this is going to do. It's going to do the exact same thing as the Kuasa, but with a different color. This is one reason where you may want to pick up one simply for character on individual sources. Let's bypass the Kuasa. Let's open up the L2. Then I'm going to set this with a -4 ceiling, so it's not going to go anywhere. And let's just crank down this threshold like before. So like I was saying, unlike a compressor set to infinity destruction, I'm gonna use a limiter that's gonna handle these peaks like cleanlier. just simply raise the average load, raise that bottom end of the kick drum. You can probably balance this out with like max volume and do some upward compression, but really, this is all I need. Matter of fact, I can do this on a snare drum as well. If I open up the snare, I already have it here. Here's a bypass. Now, when you're doing this on a snare drum, remember that the transient is actually really important to a snare. Unlike a kick where the bottom end, that average sustain, is what's going to give you the fatness of a kick drum. On a snare drum, we usually want more crack than body, depending on what kind of snare you're going for. So be very wary. If you're trying to bring up the bottom of a snare, you may sacrifice the crack. So it's all about finding a balance. And then you can add this to the main bus. Limiters make really good glues on drum buses. If you ever needed a reason to use a limiter, you got one. So this is my method for fattening up kick and snares. It's really nice, really good way to just simply go ahead and get it set. But the point being is that you can get a fat kick drum really fast with a good limiter, just a quick, fast, edgy limiter or smooth sounding limiter like the L2. Yeah, that's about it.